You're doing all 7 words now?
I will call the meeting to order. 6:30, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion for the acceptance of the agenda. Heidi and then Molly. Any questions? All in favor? Anyone for the public? Liz. Okay. Wow.
Need a flare.
Motion for the acceptance of the consensus agenda. Joe and Margaret, any questions about that? All in favor? So now it's a granting of the tenure. We're going to do each one separately, so I need a motion to grant tenure to elementary teacher Sophia Caldwell. Motion, please. Margaret. Second, Rick. All in favor? Okay. Are we going to want me to do them all, or want to do them individually? Let's do them individually. That makes it a little more.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, Laura, do you want to come up? Sophia, would you come up, please? And Laura will share a few words, and then we'll present you with your certificate.
So I'm very excited to recommend Sophia for tenure. She holds the title of one of our kindergarten teachers at the elementary school, but I've really gotten to know her as an educator who is committed to student success, seeks ways to make her classroom a positive, structured, and welcoming environment, and demonstrates her service in leadership schools to the Titan community in both her roles as a Literacy Review Committee member and MTSS committee member. Something that I really admire about Sophia is her interest that she's taken into the science of reading. She's completed her micro-credential in SUNY New Falls, as well as completed trainings in Heggerty, Lexia, Foundations, Letters, and Soundwall. And this is reflected in her instructional methods as she teaches our tiniest of Titans the foundational skills of literacy. Sophia really is just amazing. If you go into her classroom, you can watch all of these 5-, 6-year-olds rotating around into all the different stations. And she makes herself accessible by speaking to each of them with ease and asking them questions to have them really take ownership of their own learning. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to watch you grow as an impactful educator and observing the positive impact that you continue to make on our school community. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Sophia.
Thank you.
Next, we have the granting of the tenure for Michelle Davey. Can I have a motion, please? Margaret, second. Heidi? All in favor? And, yep.
So, Mary, are you speaking for Laura again? Okay. And Michelle, come on up.
So I proudly recognize Michelle as she receives tenure after 4 years of dedicated service as a reading teacher in our 3rd grade. Michelle has made a lasting impact on our students through her commitment to literacy, her supportive presence, and her belief in every child's potential. We are grateful for all she brings to our school community, and we look forward to many more years of her passion and expertise. Congratulations.
you mind if I move away from the garbage a little bit?
Well,
Thank you. I need a motion for the granting of the tenure for reading intervention teacher Hannah Harris, Margaret, and Molly. All in favor? Who's speaking?
I believe it's Ms.
Laura.
Backlund. And so Hannah, would you come up, please?
I'm also really excited to recognize tenure this year. So she's one of our reading intervention teachers, and she has a wealth of knowledge in reading development, the use of effective strategies, and honestly, what's most recognizable for her is her ability to monitor and assess student progress. I have a fun story to share about her this year, and she was teaching a second grader about vowel teams. And the student was feeling really less confident and had to read and then write words. And so she started writing really, really tiny. And so Hannah just has this very nice, calm, gentle nature. And she's like, I can see you're doing a nice job, but can you write a little bit bigger? You're straining my eyes. So the student didn't know what she meant at first. I don't think she ever heard the word straining. And she's like, how much straining your eyes? And so Hannah took the time to explain the word to her, which happens to have the vowel team in it, if you didn't know. And by the end of the lesson, she was writing her words a lot larger, and then she would read them out loud to Hannah, and she would be like, does that strain your eyes? And so it seems like a very innocent interaction, but it just really shows how quickly Hannah was able to pivot in a moment to not only teach a vocabulary word, but find a teachable moment that made the kid expand her knowledge a little bit more. And she was even using the word on her own by the end of the lesson. So talk about a natural teacher overall. We're incredibly fortunate to have her. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
You didn't strain your eyes.
Congratulations, Hannah. And next, we have the granting of the tenure of student counselor Nicholas Purificato. Did I say it good? All right, motion please. Joe and Molly. Sorry. All in favor? I know, I have to have peripheral vision. All right.
Okay, so Dr. Teeter is going to say a few words about Nick, and Nick, if you come on up as well.
So obviously, my first year working with Nick, when I first met Nick and the other counselors, one of the things that we had conversations about is our counselors really taking ownership of everything that goes into counseling. Not just meeting with the students and helping them out, but getting more involved in the master scheduling, taking opportunities to go to professional development, learning more about our school tool student system, going to Questar for our DEI initiative that we want, and Nick has embraced all of those things. And not only has he embraced those, but he has really taken out a huge leadership role of all of it, and really helps our other counselors quite a bit. He's become someone that I can go to. His office is 2 doors down. I go to him quite frequently with questions. We interact very well together, and I'm extremely happy to have Nick on board, and to see his ability to jump into all things I ask him to do with complete enthusiasm and complete energy has really been very wonderful for me to witness this year. So I really appreciate that about Nick. And, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have to do the finger first.
Oh, okay, well, just stay there. I need a motion for the granting tenure of school counselor Gabrielle Matson. Rick and Molly. All in favor? Okay.
So just very quickly about Gabby, again, first year working with Gabby, the same conversation I had with Nick, we had with Gabby, and I also had with Quinn, who's up next year for tenure, and they've really embraced the challenge. Gabby was somebody that was very shy in the very beginning of the year, would come to me very hesitantly, but to watch her confidence grow over the course of the year, to see her involved in things that she's become involved in, for her to take on the leadership role, for her to work with our 7th and 8th grade students, which can be very challenging sometimes, and watching her patience with them and always advocating for them. It's been a pleasure to work with Gabby as well, and I'm very excited to work with her again next year.
Did you want to get a group photo?
Yeah, I forgot. I was just gonna say one last.
Sorry.
Moment coming up, but if our newly tenured teachers can come up, please, together, we'll do a group photo of all of you. And I think it would be great if your co-presidents would come up to be in the picture. Unless you're vehemently opposed. We're gonna switch together. So I have them come up. Oh yeah, don't keep moving. Remember, like we tell kindergartners. Wow. That's crazy.
Well, you're tall.
Okay, you have to go on the side. It's not even. No, keep going. I have a method.
She does have a method.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You didn't have a meeting, did you? You didn't have a meeting? I know, I saw that.
You guys. Hi, thank you again, congratulations.
We usually have a meeting for the meeting. Yeah, I watched this, the audit committee, that there's no report for the audit.
It was, because it was from last time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Until August. Huh? Skip it.
Last maybe year and a half. Okay, so now we have two presentations tonight. The first one is a just strategic plan update.
Okay, so what we wanted to do was put together our blueprint for excellence and our year one implementation. You've heard throughout the year, as well as our school community, on where we started. You were part of that process as well. Where we were mid-year. You've heard from all of the buildings and departments. So tonight we wanted to give you a quick overview of other indicators of success that have happened throughout the year and how the work from this year is leading us into the work for next year. We will have Mike Cornell as our consultant this year, working with us to plan the second part of our blueprint, taking a look at data and collecting all of that. So it's really exciting. I think that this is something that a strategic plan, it's important that it's a living, breathing document that we come back and we review and we take a look at, but it's really a target to keep us on track and to make sure that we're focused on where we want to land. So a reminder of our mission and vision, and I would like everybody to read them out loud because I think it does make a difference when we say them. We spent a lot of time writing these, updating them, changing the language. So mission statement: we provide an engaging and enriching education experience that prepares each student for a uniquely successful future. and our vision statement. We are a leading educational community that works in partnership with the community to provide a comprehensive and exciting education experience for every student. And then I'm just going to ask each board member, maybe going around and including you, Erin. I think we'll have enough people to just read one of the core values. We'll just go clockwise around with fiscal responsibility. So fiscal responsibility, Erin?
Honesty, integrity, and transparency.
Student voice.
Safety and support.
Innovation.
Respect.
Enthusiasm.
Empathy.
Civic responsibility.
Diversity and equity.
Student growth and success. So our priority areas that were determined from collecting data from the community, not only our school, but our taxpayers. And we identified 3 priority areas: academic excellence, the school environment, and operations. And then we worked together to talk about, well, what were the priorities based on the data? What are our students looking for? What is our community looking for? And we prioritized some focuses, which are below. So department goals and indicators of success.
So a lot of our work kind of dabbles in all of the 3 focus areas, mostly operations, which you'll see up here. So this top section up here was our goal, and this was kind of what we did this year. Sorry, it's very, very small. You'll hear communication a lot, but we have 3 areas of communication that we really focus on. So ensure consistent and timely communication. I'm not going to read through all of these, but I will highlight a couple of them. RealShare was a new, First Programs was a new platform that we purchased that seems to be going really well. We've been able to communicate in multiple different languages, which is new. Emails from the superintendent to the board, to cabinet, to faculty and staff has been really just well received by the staff. Another area of communication is enhanced community awareness. You've seen the at-a-glance flyer that we started last year. Alexis did that again this year. It has been very well received by the community. I actually did one really quickly at the end of the budget season for our seniors, the Reading Across Generations group, and they enjoyed that as well. So I do want to do that next year to send out to the whole community. Our Titan Herald, we had more diversity in the articles. Coffees and conversations and soup of the soup. Another area of communication was we spent a lot of money on improving the signage in our facility. So with the help of Nick, we were able to purchase some speed bumps, which you can probably talk about. The signage for the speed limits. We have the pickup drop-off area. We spent a lot of time on tweaking after there were some concerns about the drop-off and the pickup in the elementary and high school. So we worked on that to improve the signage there. The budget vote, oh, go ahead.
And that was ongoing, and that required everybody to collaborate because everybody has a different role in it. The building administrators, buildings and grounds, transportation, our office. So it was a community effort to make those changes over time and adjust.
Alexis spent a lot of time on putting out signs for the budget vote with the help of Bobby Joe. We have the sandwich board outside, helping people figure out where the board meeting is, and a different access point for them as well. The bus banner, we put that out, that was new this year. Gonna work on that next year. Support services, so this is just providing ongoing professional development for staff. This was a big lift this year. We worked with Better Lesson and the instructional team for Better Lesson to come just be present in classrooms, which is new. Therapeutic crisis intervention, we realized that not a lot of the teachers and support staff have been recently trained in TCI, so we trained over 60 staff, and that was very, very well received, and we hope to bring that back next year.
Yeah, well, I would just say that a training was set up, and it was so well received that it was requested again, and we were able to do it again in March and have another 30 people trained. So that was great.
And the last section, reorganize the office spaces, and one of the areas in the strategic plan was the focus on HR having a private location, which we knew we needed. So that requires our whole office to relocate. So that is in the process. You know, what this will become eventually, our office will be on the other end, everyone will have a private space. So I mean, we'll be able to meet with employees privately. And we are moving forward with that daycare initiative.
And I would just add one other thing that we didn't necessarily put on here, but was really important, was the budget process and talking about how do we refine it, how do we start looking at a 5-year plan, how do we match and align the work in the strategic plan with the budget that we have and still maintain fiscal responsibility. And Ashley and the district office did a wonderful job making that happen and doing that work. And we've already talked about other ways we can get information out about voting, about understanding the budget, and communicating with our whole community. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
All right, so Dr. Gardner couldn't be here tonight, so a couple areas that we focused on this year overall with the district. A lot of this work ends up, of course, with building principals, content coordinators, and faculty and staff doing a lot of the work together to make these things happen. But we wanted to take a look at a literacy review for K through 8. We used Spontus and Pinnell and Lucy Calkins writing. And it wasn't just that, but it was that the science of reading information came out. And so we wanted to take a look at what do we have, what's working, what's not working, what parts of the science of reading do we need to enhance, and what areas are moving along well, and do we maybe need to provide extra training. So that literacy review committee is still in process. They've collected surveys from students, grades 3 through 12, insight about reading and literacy from parents, and then also from each grade level, and also taking time to fill out in each grade level or department what are strengths, weaknesses, any other areas that we need to work on, and anything that might be considered a threat to continued success. So that work then lays the foundation for how we start taking a look at our standards and revamping our curriculum maps and what's happening in each grade level and content area. We wanted to expand and reinstate the work-based learning coordinator role, which is in process, so we're really excited about that with Amy Janito taking that on. And one of the other goals that was under school environment and operations was that we would build community opportunity for people to come in from the district to here. And this was bigger with different extracurricular opportunities for our students as well. Under academic excellence, a few highlights of the Literacy Review Committee, work-based learning, which I talked about. A couple other exciting things is last year, the Seal of Civic Readiness and the Seal of Biliteracy were put together, and that was a lot of work with committees and what does that look like and what's required in order to get that seal on your diploma. And this year we have 5 students receiving the Seal of Biliteracy who will be in our class of 2025, and we have right now 16 and probably 3 more students that will be wrapping up to receive the Seal of Civic Readiness. So that's fantastic. We had a great first year of implementing Reveal Mathematics. It's a program that aligns with our curriculum for K through 8. Frog Street is our pre-K curriculum for all the content areas. Second step implementation has started, and that's a program that our school counselors use. And then we also have added some additional courses at the high school for this coming year, and that was based on Ms. Dalia and Dr. Teeter getting information from our students about what they were looking for and what they wanted. The school environment, Stories Across Generations, was great. Right before I started here in the district 2 years ago, I went to a benefit at High and Mighty, met a woman in the community who asked about having volunteers come into the school. So Dr. Gardner and I worked on that this year, which ended up, we had 11 senior citizens who came in to read to students. We had our Ms. D'Amico and Ms. Backlund work really well with us to put schedules together, to reach out to teachers so that they could come in and read to our students. And I do believe that, I think, Laura, you told me that a couple students had actually increased in their performance, and a teacher had said that it was connected to that reading.
Just having that additional time.
Yeah, having that additional time. So that's really exciting. It just is wonderful for our students and our community. The Farm to School grant, which you've heard about, that we received with the hard work of Kyle Matler with that as well. And then just extracurricular. Other things we've worked on is our DESA implementation, which is our social emotional learning screener. Adults have been trained in that. We did one round of it. So we have some information and we know how to help and support our students moving forward into the next year. And that's something that will be taken each year by our students. And then operations, we started working on our teacher evaluation committee. You know, the law has changed in that. We still have 7 more years to change it, but we've already been working with that committee to make some changes that work for everyone. And I think everything else that I've really talked about. So next I have Vera Erickson to just share briefly. I do want to say she's only been here pretty much since April 1st, and she's already accomplished a lot. So
yeah, I was gonna, you know, when you get your first administration job, they always tell you in school to spend the first year just observing and gathering information. And maybe I naively jumped in thinking that's what I was gonna do. But I noticed some things. I met with my staff and I really asked, like, if you had a magic wand, what are some things? And we just started kind of collecting some information. And they also shared some of the wonderful things. And I got to tell you that every single one of them, we've met as groups or individually, the first thing out of their mouths was how friendly and how their colleagues are their friends. It's more than just a job. They are coming in and they get to do this with friends. And so that's amazing because not every school has that culture of friendship. And it's the first thing that, you know, their staff's around. So I think that's great. So what have we been up to? Help, you're going to hear this a lot out of my mouth, and they see it at the table all the time as I talk about following regulations. And so to stay in compliance, we have the nurses collaborating with our school physicians to ensure that all the required physicals are completed and documented in a timely manner. We've met with Dr. Creasar twice already, and we're going to do it again in the summer. And physicals are happening, and then we're just going to keep this going so that every child can stay healthy, because that is a priority. Jumping over here, the other thing after those conversations with academic growth and strategic planning is summer professional learning to collaboratively design a 5-year plan for my PPS department. Like, where do we want to be in 5 years, and just backwards design that. And so we're going to have a couple sessions starting with this summer. Next, Karen, Regina, and I have become great friends with data collecting, and we've really started streamlining the McKinney-Vento process to improve our data collection and ensure more up-to-date information for students and for in transitional housing. This is so that we can really make sure that they're getting their needs met, feeling safe, and that they're here in this community. We know that they are getting all their needs met. And then lastly, this one I'm super excited about, school environment and continuum of services. That's another thing you're always hear me say, is that we're excited to open a new self-contained K-2 classroom, allowing 5, maybe 6 students to remain in district with the support that they need. This is going to help with getting the kids what I believe they should be educated at their home. It's also obviously going to save the district some money. But we have a special ed teacher who is super excited. She's new, but she has worked with children with these disabilities in the past, and we're very excited. So that's a big one. I'm very proud of that one. So, thank you.
Thank you. I will just add that that is a big lift, and probably one of the most critical pieces is knowing that you have the right staff and people in place. And there is a lot of work to do with it, but we know what we need to do to get that ready. So I want to thank Barrett too and Laura Backlund, because that's her area as well, because this has been a focus of mine too. And I know we've talked a lot about it, having our kids, not in out of district placements like Barrett said, but being able to be at home, and especially for our students that may need some extra supports and services. The last thing we want is for them riding a bus an hour to a placement. We want them to be here feeling safe and warm. And it's also important, I think, to their parents and for them to learn and be successful here. So I thank the team, because this doesn't happen without collaborative effort. And before I jump into the buildings presenting, I just want to say that a lot of the end of the year data right now is not quite finished. What is the word I would say, Karen? Preliminary. It's preliminary data. And, you know, you can look at student growth or student achievement. Student growth is really important when you're looking at data, which is also a newer thing that we've been doing in the last couple of years, and especially this year. There's so much data that's out there, but what is the most important data that we need to know about, that we need to understand and use effectively to make differences in the classroom that then impact our students? And student growth is important because it may show necessarily that we have, student achievement may show we have 39% of our students in a grade level reading at or above grade level. And you think, yeah, but when we look at student growth, we could have a child who's reading below grade level, but has made a year's worth of growth or beyond a year's worth of growth during that time. And that's really important as well. And that lets us know that having programs in place like Heggerty and foundations that focus on phonics and phonemic awareness and doing them with fidelity is making a difference, because we are seeing that growth. So I just want to point that out before our building leadership starts sharing, because while it's preliminary, it is exciting to see that there have been some great gains. Okay, and I think we have the high school up next. And I'm going to hand this over to you and Darby. You just hit that, and then you'll be able to pass that in. Okay, thank you.
All right. So our first area that we talked to you guys in the winter, like talked to you about in the winter, was academic excellence. As you know, through all your passing and approvals, you've approved about 14 plus courses that we're going to add into our schedule. If you don't remember, where did we get that information from? We got it from our students during our town hall meetings. So that is something that we have done, and we are moving on from this year, and we'll be implementing next year. Other things that we're doing, as you guys know, we have teamed 7th and 8th grade in the past, but now we're going to kind of super team up for next year. So instead of having every day just a 7th grade team of teachers meeting with their students, we're actually going to have 7th and 8th grade meet together without their students. So they can talk not only about content specific stuff for both 7th and 8th grade, but also cross-curricular stuff. And also on another day or so, look at data of the individual students that they do have. So we're kind of super teaming it, I guess, next year with a little bit more specifics in what we want to focus on given days. I'll do the next one too, and then you can do them. Okay. The other thing we are going to do is we are looking at MTSS. So we're trying to make MTS better in the middle school area as well as the high school. And what we're doing is we're going back to the days of old. Those of you who've been around for a while know that we used to have something called T9. And in that T9, we had a specific AIS period just for those 9th grade students. Well, we're bringing that back for 7th and 8th grade. And within the school day, they were going to have one time period where all 7th graders are with their core content area, and all 8th graders are with their core content area. And if teachers need to swap kids to get work done, to catch up, to remediate, that is going to be a set time within the school day for that to happen.
Just to expand on that just a little bit. So with that kind of team time, we wanted to not only provide support to the kids, but this will be a great opportunity for us to provide enrichment as well. So if one group of students is going with the social studies teacher, and during this team time, the vision is that they will discuss this, right? We're gonna take this group of students because they need extra help in social studies. Meanwhile, we're gonna provide enrichment in science, okay? Social studies English is gonna work with this group, and math is gonna work with this group, and they're gonna move around, it's gonna be very fluid. With those 5 days where the teams are meeting, 2 of the days, you're gonna work with, so a 7th grade teacher, I'm working with my 7th grade core teacher, and a co-teacher that's gonna push in for special ed. On the other 2 days, I'm going from the social studies teacher in 8th grade and working with my 7th grade social studies teacher colleague. So we're aligning our curriculum, right, for the 7th and 8th grade, and we're working as a team grade level as well. On the 5th day is going to be very data focused, okay? How are we breaking these students up when we go to common team time? When we go to the support period time, right? What data are we using? Who needs extra help on fractions? Who needs extra help on verbs? Who needs this? Who needs that? It needs to be very targeted and very specific. So that's a big part of what we're doing with the master schedule this year, to really get our 7th and 8th grade students ready for high school. And I've sat down with Darby multiple times, and as we look through the data, the word that keeps coming up, and I'll use this over and over again, is rigor. We're really trying to increase the rigor because we want our students hitting 9th grade prepared for high school classes. With that, we are reconfiguring the schedule. We'll talk about discipline data, and that's one of the things that we didn't mention yet. But our discipline data shows that out of all of our referrals, I think there were 1,500. There's like 1,500 referrals we had to deal with this year. 800 of them were for skipping class. Okay, 801. So we're skipping class. Out of those 801, the vast majority of them came 5th period, 6th period, or 7th period, which are the 3 lunch periods. So students would have a 20-minute lunch, and then they'd have a 20-minute work call. Okay, and what's happening is students aren't going to work call. They're going to the other lunch, or they're going to the library, or they're going wherever, and they're checking in, and it's just their friends are, joining them when they're not supposed to be. So what are we going to do? We're going to revamp that, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay. Lunch and PE are going to be based on grade levels. Again, I'll show you that when I talk to you about the master schedule. One of the big class failures that we have, when we have so many students failing, it's going to be PE. And we started to really focus in not only to the PE teachers, but we asked the students, why? PE is the easiest thing to do. Sometimes all you need to do is go out and walk the track, and you're going to get credit, right? A lot of times they're intimidated by older students being in there. A 9th grade student who may not be very athletic is intimidated by a 12th grade student who is very athletic. So what are we doing? We're breaking them down. 7th and 8th grade is going to have their own period for PE. 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th, right? To make it more age appropriate. And the same thing with lunch. We're building in Tier 2 academic support period for each of the cores. So not only are we giving them the support period they need, where they can break the students up, but we're doing very targeted. If I teach 8th grade ELA, I am going to be able to take my students and work with them in a much smaller group in our Tier 2 ELA, or math, or science, or social studies. And we're doing that for each of the core subjects, right? We want our students, we want to be proactive instead of reactive. If our students are starting to fall behind, we want to catch them back up to speed, get them into class, and bring a new group of students in to help them with what they're struggling with. But
This year and in the past for AIS, we would have students of varying levels and needs all into one class. So next year, what we're going to do is we're grouping kids. If your reading comprehension scores are low, then you're going to go into a reading comprehension AIS. If it's phonemic awareness, is it phonics, whatever the case may be, we're grouping you so you can specifically work on the targeted skill that you need to improve upon. And that's a bit different, but it is a little bit of a challenge with the schedule, but I think we got it through some creative naming of classes. And it'll be really great when it happens. Oh, and summer programming. So as you know, in the past, we've had, summer bridges. We're still calling it summer bridges, but summer bridges has been revamped. Like we said earlier, rigor has been something that we have been working for throughout the year, and we're also working through for the summer. So summer bridges, we used to have field trips like pretty much every day or every other day. There's gonna be 3 field trips this summer. Actually, really there are 2, but there might be a third one because I heard there's some extra money, okay? But what we're doing is we're focusing on the essential standards or the priority area or the target areas, priority standards, sorry, of both incoming 7th grade, incoming 8th grade, and incoming 9th grade. We're going to take 3 math, 3 ELA, 3 social studies, 3 science from each one of those grade levels. And we're really going to target in on those standards to make sure our kids that are moving on do have the skills as well as the knowledge base that they need to have in order to move on to the next grade level.
And we are also realigning some of our staff. Some of our staff will be teaching courses that they didn't teach, or that they will be teaching different classes than what they taught this year, right? And we're doing that because we really want to leverage their individual strengths and make sure that we're putting them in the best place to help our students succeed. And PE, right?
Math.
Oh, math, summer, so for our summer credit recovery, we posted for a math teacher for our Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday program. However, we didn't get any takers. So with some creative problem solving, we asked 2 of our math teachers, Angela Webster and Miss Beebe, if they would come in on Mondays as a standalone and teach a summer school math class just on Mondays for 2 hours a session. And they were both able to commit to that, which is great, because we are a little concerned about the amount of students that may not successfully gotten through our algebra class. Okay, so we really want to focus on getting them caught up to speed over the summer, getting that first Regents under their belt, and getting them onto geometry and form. Okay. And then PE, one of the things that we're going to change is PE. Traditionally here has been a semester course. So if you didn't do well one quarter, you would have failed for the semester. And what we decided to do is make it a full year course, just like all of our other courses. So if I don't do well for one semester, I can still do well the other 3. Because what we were doing is, if you failed a quarter so bad you failed the semester, we were doubling you up in PE. So now you might have a PE period, 4th period, and a PE 8th period. Well, what that does now is it's a every other day course. If I just added that into my schedule, I've lost a period where I could have been taking a different course. And on opposite days, if it wasn't planned out, now I have a work call every other day, right? So instead of doing that, we said, no, we're just going to make PE a full year course, like all of our other courses for the most part. And it's much easier to schedule that way, and we can get another academic period for our students. Okay? So this is the schedule that we're talking about. And again, this went through with a lot of conversations. So what we are doing is we're getting rid of the half lunch, half work call. Okay? So try and follow me a little bit here. A group is our 7th and 8th graders. B group is our 9th and 10th graders. And C group is our 11th and 12th graders. So if I am in 7th grade or 8th grade, everybody has the same bell schedule through period 4. All right? From the 7th and 8th grade, I go to lunch. And I go to lunch for 30 minutes, which is 8 minutes longer than they had, right? But we're doubling up the amount of kids that are going in there, okay? After lunch, I go on to my next class, all right? It's not a work hall, it's a class. Then I go on to my 6th period class, and that 7th period, everybody's caught back up again, all right? If I am a 9th or 10th grader, and I leave period 4, I go to my period 5 class. After my period 5 class, I go to lunch. After lunch, I go back to a class. I'm not going to a work hall. Okay? 7th period, we're all caught up again. If I am a junior or a senior, same deal. I go to my period 5 class. Then I go to my period 6 class. Then I go to lunch. And after lunch, we're all caught up again. So one of the misconceptions that's out there is we're losing a period. No, we're not. No, we're not. We currently have 9-period day. But remember, one of those periods is a lunch/work hall with 8 academic periods. We still have 8 academic periods and we still have a lunch. There's just no work hall. All right? So it's the same amount of classes. You still get a lunch, but we don't have a work hall after lunch. Okay? So that gives us an extra 21, 22 minutes. What are we doing with that extra 21 or 2 minutes? We added them to each period. So now we are in a 41 or 40, I think it's a 42-minute class. Yep, 42-minute period, okay, instead of a 40-minute period, which gives us an extra 360 minutes of instruction, which works out to be about 9 instructional days over the course of the year. All right, and when we lose, we lost a work hall that causes odds for Guardian 9 because of all the different cuts. All right, so that's where we are with that schedule. Okay, any questions?
I do have one.
Sure.
So with these schedules, there's no work call at all, right?
So there's no.
Because there are some kids that, like, especially athletes, like
Yeah.
that work call.
So there's not automatically built in.
Okay.
Remember, I still have 9 periods in the day,
Mhm.
all right? I still have 8 periods of academics. I may only sign up for 6 classes.
Okay.
Or 7 classes.
So there will be an
You
opportunity.
could have a work call. It's just not automatic after you leave.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
You got it. Anybody else?
Our other area we're looking at is school environment and how we can improve the school environment. This year, obviously, we have done the town hall meetings where we've had students voice their opinions and thoughts on different questions that we posed them. Our last one, we had our students that have gone to the DEI empowering students voices. Thank you. They actually were the ones who devised the questions that we had the other students answer during the town hall meetings. They didn't actually read the little, the different stations, but they are the ones who came up with what they wanted to have information about, and they posed and wrote the questions.
The other celebrations we've already talked about, Ms. Pleasures we talked about, seal of biliteracy. We've got 5 students so far who obtained that seal. Seal of civic readiness, we've got 17 students that are up for that. And our graduation cohort, and Karen maybe put this in big red letters, right? This is our projected rate at this point. Mr. Morales and I were having a conversation in the beginning of the meeting, basically saying we're still trying to pull a whole bunch of students across the stage, trying to get them in, get their work done. And this goes back to kudos to Nick and Quinn, both of them, who are on top of our seniors especially. They're on them left and right, which is a great thing, because they are constantly saying, we need to get this work in for this class. You still need to do this, you still need to do that. And they're really going above and beyond to get our students to walk the stage.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what happens to the 4 students who aren't graduating? And if there are, it says 63 out of 67, and why are they not graduating? Like what, is it gym, math?
Now, go ahead.
Those students ended up dropping out this year at different times. We've tried everything to get them back into school through parent meetings, other types of communication with the student themselves, as well as outside resources, and we weren't able to get them back. We do have a GED program, and and I know it's not in this cohort, but we do have students that have gone and successfully completed the GED.
And then what were the reasons? Like what are the
That,
kids
you know
saying?
what, there's probably 4 different reasons for that, and they're very personal.
Okay.
And
And it happens like senior year, I guess.
No, some of the issues, they've fallen behind to the point where they really had to be very motivated this year to graduate in time, and the circumstances, they weren't able to overcome.
I just feel like it's really difficult. Like I feel like everyone should be able to graduate. They start school in pre-K, kindergarten, you're 4, and you're going until you're 18 years old. And it's like, how is like for 14 years, you're going to school with all these other kids, and all of a sudden it's like the last year. And it's like these other kids are graduating and you're not.
It's actually not the last year. I mean, unfortunately, we can look at students by second and third grade, and we have an idea of who is going to really have difficulty actually graduating. And that's, Laura and I are going to discuss discipline and, attendance rates. And attendance is a huge concern with very specific families within the district, to the point where, their children are out of school a lot more than they're in school. And there's only so much we can do to fill those educational gaps when they're not attending.
And then I just have a hard time with this. So then it goes from second, but they made it, most of them, to 11th or 12th. Like they kept getting pushed that far, even though in second or third grade they might not graduate. So I'm just like, what can we do better as a school to make sure those kids can graduate? Like I just think that's huge.
Well, we're building in common team time for our teachers to collaborate with the students. And I'm not being sarcastic.
No, I'm just saying, is it working or like doing?
So we don't know. So this is stuff that we're putting in because when we went over these things, we're talking about helping our students who are in 7th and 8th grade, right? We are looking for a support period that we can get students who are falling behind academically. We want them caught up to speed, right? We want that period where we can work with them in their individual needs. We are putting in an AIS for our, we're putting in an AIS for every core teacher, right?
So how is the 9th grade class? I know in like November, I'm sorry, I'm like bringing
No,
it up because there was a presentation early, like in November, I think we did, or December, saying the 9th grade class, like if they do well in 9th grade, they're probably gonna graduate. But if they're not, so then I'm thinking like, okay, the school has 3 more years to try to get them to graduate at that point. So I'm like, how is the 9th grade class doing? Like, do you think?
So that's a good question. All right, so what happened is, when we did our last town hall meeting and we presented the data, our 9th grade had the largest amount of referrals by far, okay? And one of the reasons for that was the repeat 9th graders was probably the biggest reason, and the class cuts, right? We had, out of the 9th grade, 831 referrals out of the 1,500 came from 9th grade. So my theory is, right, when we socially promote from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and students start to lose a little bit of motivation because they think they're just going to be moved on. We have students who sometimes opt out of exams and don't get that practice in the 3 through 8 assessments. Now, when it comes time for high school, you're taking a Regents exam, and they go, well, I'm just going to opt out. And we can't, because you need to pass this exam to graduate. Now's where the rubber hits the road, okay? We've also built in a 9th grade team time for our 9th grade teachers to collaborate and to really identify students that are struggling. Again, we're putting in these AIS classes where we're going to hopefully get to these students sooner and be proactive with it instead of reactive, so we don't wait for them to fail to get them the help they need, right? And by doing it in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we're hoping that we're now preparing these students as they enter high school and go through their first year, so that when they are back on track, you're 100% right. Now the rest of it is, now I'm prepared, I go to class, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be successful.
I have information that Lynette thought might be helpful. For the 4 students that are considered drops for this cohort, one student came to us as a 19-year-old ELL student, only stayed here 3 months, and then he dropped out. So that counts for us as a drop, even though we only had him for 3 months. 2 students for this year, one was a long-term absence, and one was a withdrawal, and then there was one back in the 21-22 school year. So it's really, this year was one student that I know they tried everything they could to get that student to come to school. They never actually stepped foot this year in the building whatsoever. And the other one is the drop, but the other two really are prior things, and especially that ELL student, I feel like it misrepresents, what was going on in there. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And when we're talking about a cohort, we're not talking about students that were necessarily in 12th grade now. They started with this graduating group. And as Mike said, and we're gonna add on to it when we get up there, the problem becomes in 9th grade, that's when you start accruing credits. You need to have X number of credits in order to get a diploma. And so once they hit that, and we can't just push you forward. And for a while here, we were guilty of pushing forward students that really, they either weren't coming to school or they didn't do what they needed to do. Lynette's been very supportive about us saying, hey, families are making decisions. If they're not sending their kids to school, there's only so much we can do. But we had, these students did not have enough credits to graduate this year. They dropped out because they were probably, high school or senior age, 17 years old, and they did not have credits to get out of 9th grade.
Or one was in 10th grade.
Okay, well,
I mean,
but
like,
you
so
know what I mean.
she's 18.
Yeah, and they're not going to make it. There's a cutoff in each cutoff for how long you're educated. So this is just part of the struggle that we have. And when we do go to elementary, we're going to talk about attendance, because if you're not here, none of the other stuff matters. So we've got to get them here.
And I just want to add too, forgive me, but I mentioned earlier that we're really starting to look at our data, and we're starting to look at the important data, and as a leadership team. And we know the research shows that if students struggle in 6th and or 9th grade, their chances of graduating on time from high school decrease. So there's been a lot of work at taking, not just at the cohorts, but what is it that we need to put in place to support them? So all this explanation of the amount of work and time that's gone into creating a master schedule, it takes a lot to basically gut a master schedule and redo it, and to put everything in place, including 14 additional courses. I'm taking a look at AIS and working with teachers to see how you can do it. And so we may not be seeing this year the results that we want in the academics of our students, but these are the foundations that have been worked on in order to put that action in place for those students to have greater success. We've talked about attendance, we've talked about lack of retention. We know research shows again that retention doesn't necessarily work. However, we've had conversations. If you have a child that's missing a third or more of a school year, that has chronic absenteeism, are we retaining them? Because if we keep them in that grade, they've missed the bulk of instruction that they need. That's not retention, right? That retention is, that definition is more students are coming every day and trying really hard, and we're probably not providing them what they need, and so we're going to hold them back. That's not what we're talking about. And that hasn't happened before either. And the last thing I want to say is I mentioned that we had just had our students this year and our teachers do that SEL screener, the DESA, to get some foundation work. If you take a look at the 9th grade cohort currently, 61% of them self-assess at being at risk in one of the 5 areas. That gives us a lot of information now to have counselors go and take a look at them. Who's staying in 9th grade that's in that 61% for how they see themselves? Who's going on to 10th grade? What are the areas where they're struggling? And now what do we do as a district, a building, a counseling team, the clinical staff and teachers to help those kids? Because those are things like self-awareness, being able to follow directions.
And those are all pieces that are gonna impact, if that's how they see themselves, whether it's true or not, that's gonna impact their performance. So it's not, I think there's a lot of layers and it's working to figure them out. And I just wanted to point that out because I think it might help answer some of the questions behind this. So, thank you.
Thanks. Oh, very briefly, the support period, is that for all 7th and 8th grade students? Okay, wonderful.
Well,
Just one, oh.
No,
No, not this.
not those who are enriched.
Okay,
Because
so,
they'll be taking the Earth and Space as a 9th grade, they'll be taking the 9th grade class as 8th graders. There's Algebra 1, so those students are advanced, so they'll be getting more enrichment during that.
okay, so if they're not advanced, it is all.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
They also touch base on the social emotional part too. We meet with our counselors every Thursday. And every one of our students, 7th through 12th grade, is on our list. And we go through that list grade by grade. And we talk about the different students who are struggling emotionally. And we, as a team, school psychologists, counselors, social workers, Darby, myself, we bring them together for youth.
Sometimes DSS comes.
Sometimes DSS.
Sometimes.
Right? Sometimes our school resource officer's been there, and we look at the whole child, not just academically, but social emotionally, and we try to put different supports in place to help them that way too. Right? And then on top of that, we are also working with our instruction. Okay? And our last presentation, we talked about our Tier 1 instructional design. And now we're going to finish our Tier 1 instructional design for the 25-26 school year, and we're moving into instructional delivery. And we're going to be doing more professional development on best practices. And that's how we've used our curriculum coordinator meetings this year and our faculty meetings. All the information, the old school faculty meetings where we just share information, we send out a news and notes once a week with all that information. We take that 45 minutes to an hour twice a month, and we work on instruction and best instructional practices. And in that news and notes that we send out, there's usually an article that follows up on what we said. That's scientifically based, research based, all right, for our teachers to do a little bit more of their own growth through those articles.
Vocabulary. Mary and I last summer with the team of staff, we worked on a great word of the week, or also known as WOW, which you may have seen. We are meeting again this summer to do that, but with this, what we're looking for is mostly like creating academic word walls in different content area classrooms. And we'll be doing some PD on that during our PLC meetings.
And this is not for this coming school year, but for 26-27 year, on our top of our list right now is, I'm not sure if you've heard of AVID, but it's a program basically to provide more enrichment opportunities for our middle school students. And exactly what you asked before, what are we doing with our 9th grade team? And we're really looking at everything we possibly can and researching how do we make it a better 9th grade transition year, and how do we make it smoother so that our students are on pace to graduate with their program. I believe that's it. That's it. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be the clear.
We have spent a lot of time talking to you guys about our priority area this year being in Tier 1 instruction. So this presentation is going to be a little bit different because we are, as Mary's already prefaced, going to be talking a little bit about discipline and attendance at the elementary school. Is there anything you want to say about Tier 1 before we move on?
No, I mean, we're just really have been working on solid Tier 1 instruction, and Tier 1 is everyone. So what does that look like? And it's based on the needs of the students. Mike and Darby mentioned enrichment. So oftentimes we have students of varying abilities, but we are trying to make sure that within the classroom that solid foundational instruction is strong. And it links up with, just very briefly, we talk about essential standards, and you'll have a teacher come and say, oh my gosh, there's so much to this curriculum. How can I cover all of it? And that's a really excellent question. So we talk about, well, what is essential? What are those parts of this curriculum that we know a student absolutely needs to know in order to move on to the next grade? And there are kids that you're going to work with them, and that is what they're going to focus on. They're not going to go beyond that. And then beyond the what you need to know, there's what would be really helpful, what would be good to know, beneficial. And there are students that can do absolutely need to and beneficial. And then we all know those kids that they're going to master all of that, and then, oh, you know what's interesting to know? All of those additional things, and that's where we get into more of our enrichment. And we're doing all of that within the classroom. We've been focusing on just having really clear learning objectives. And these are things that when we walk in the classroom, we want the students to own their learning. So we want them to know, hey, what is it? What's the point? What are you doing here today? And I'm happy to say that when you talk to kids, they're really able to articulate what it is that they are working on, and what it is that they hope to learn by the end of that lesson. And then we go back to our vocabulary. Yes, we have our word of the week. You can all see it on our digital sign, provided Laura and I actually read the correct word. They're always like, Barry, you read the wrong. And I'm like, I know that.
For myself, summer, we have to put the date.
We have to do something. And I'm like, I don't know what day it is. But beyond that is the importance of the academic vocabulary within the classrooms. And it's going to look different, obviously, based on the grade level, based on as we move up into 4th, 5th, and 6th, we have our teachers are really kind of focusing on specific subject areas as we try to transition kids and get them prepared to be successful in high school. So academic vocabulary is key. If they don't know what the text is asking, what the question is asking, how are they going to be able to figure it out? But then we go to our bigger issue, which I mentioned over here. It was, if the kids aren't in school, none of this stuff, as great as it is, matters. So that is something that we are really working on, and I think we have made some progress.
Yeah, so just to wrap this one up, that we've implemented some programs with Fidelity. We've made an instruction an integral part of our day. When we look at our data, what is the next thing to tackle? And so right now, here is our attendance. Now, the numbers are so tiny on here that I took some notes so I can kind of summarize it for you and say it out loud. Blue is what's considered our low-risk students. This is actually our data from last year, and here's our data in comparison to this year. And you're going to notice that the blues just gotten larger visually, but we had 181 students that were low risk last year, and we've increased 38 students to 219 students that are low risk this year. When I think of high risk students, we actually combined looking at both the orange and the red students. And so when I add those numbers together, we had 130 students that were considered high risk or chronic absenteeism last year, and we've reduced that down to 97 students. So it's a 33 student improvement. So when you think about that, it's a pretty big impact.
So when we talk about chronic absenteeism, what is that? What does that mean? So what the state defines it is by the end of the school year, you would have 18 absences or more, 18 being 10% of the school year. And when we look at, and again, when that was really supportive of this, because in the past we have been a, do not retain kind of school district. When we looked at some of the, and it's not many, but there are a few students that we are retaining. I mean, we're looking at upwards of 60 absences. Today, I actually had the conversation, Barrett had the pleasure of joining me. And it was like 20, it was 20 leaving early. And by early, like they were leaving at what, 10 o'clock, 10, as early as 10:51. And then I want to say it was 5 or 6
just late arrivals. And a late arrival, I think the latest was 12:43. So missing all of these days of instruction, how can we possibly, in good conscience, move this child into the next grade?
The parents are coming at 10:50 to pick them up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and after we had this whole big, long meeting today, Bonnie, and it ended at 9:49 is when they took the child with them home. And
It's not funny, but,
it,
like,
no,
it's so
it's,
sad.
it's unbelievable.
So we're trying to provide families with visuals, have them sign like compacts, like if in the quarter you are coming in late 5 times or have your child absent 5 times, then you're gonna be coming in to have a meeting with us to talk about it. Having the teachers call home. We're working with Together for Youth, which was formerly known as our Home Run program, and they've been doing a lot of work to try to educate families, assist them, provide transportation if that's a struggle for them.
And really what we've seen, and I kind of said earlier, is our chronic offenders, I guess, if you will, it's the same group of people over and over again, to the point where, some of the students they were kind of alluding to in the high school presentation, we're having the same exact problems with the siblings in the elementary school. So we're very fortunate. We do have this Together for Youth program. They used to be Berkshire Farm, and they were purchased by Together for Youth, and it is the Home Run program. And we have a worker that comes about 4 days a week and meets with kids during lunch. But the better part is they go to the homes, they speak to the parents, they assist with appointments. I mean, it is an area where we do have a high rate of poverty. In a lot of cases, they don't have the transportation to get to different things. There are parenting courses that are offered. There are a lot of things if we can get the families to agree. It's all voluntary. But we have a wonderful group of people from Together for Youth that work with us. I have a job once I retire. They're already committed to that. But we're just trying to make some connection to get them to understand that it is so important for them to be in school.
So
And yes, yeah.
Like, what are the reasons why they're either coming all the time? Like, what is, like, there's nothing specific? Nothing like.
It's really case by case.
We have students who are in very difficult situations with parents who have addiction problems. We have CPS involved, and it is just a struggle. The kids want to be in school. They're happy in school. They have food, and they're safe and all of these things, but it's still a struggle to get them here.
Yeah,
Parents,
they missed the bus.
yeah,
and that was their
they're
only
little
It's not
kids.
the kid that doesn't want to be here,
It's
it's
true.
the parent that is not
Absolutely.
bringing them here,
Especially
making
at
sure
these
they
lower
come.
levels.
At the younger ages, that's exactly what it is, Bonnie. We
I know,
have a lot of problems with
I
that.
know.
I think what the school could do, because I have kids at the school, and when they are absent, you get an everything's automatic email, automatic phone call, no one calls. I have kids in middle school and high school. My daughter was out for a week with the flu. I wrote to the school. I emailed all the teachers and said, my daughter's out this week, she has the flu.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, probably on the opposite spectrum, but like, no one reached out to say, like, is Alita okay? Is everything going, you know what I mean?
I know we have robocall
Yeah.
because
I
these
think it would
same
be nice
parents.
if the school
We
reached out.
And we do.
Something else we also talked about this year with like the staff is like if a student has been absent like 3 days in a row and you haven't heard from them, make contact.
Yeah.
So that's been something I feel like that has helped with that.
And, we do home visits. There's pretty much, nothing we won't try at this point. But, in a lot of cases, we just have little kids that nobody's waking up.
So this is pre-K through 6, looking at it as just one conglomerate, but then we also have it broken down by grade level. Also looking at the 2 different years.
And what we noticed, once we broke it down, this is last year, this is this year. And so if we look at our second grade last year, we had 15 students that were really problematic. They were of greatest concern, high risk. And then if we look at them now in
Third
third grade, we still have, when we compare it to the other grade levels, we know that that is a challenging cohort. It's improved a bit,
but it's something that we continue to work on. And we're getting there.
And when you look at like I said, if you're looking at like the whole, every grade, like the low risk in blue, the numbers are increasing. So if you go from last year to this year, that the fifth graders that are now sixth graders, we had 23 that were considered low risk, now we have 30. We had 37 in fourth grade, now we have 40. So all those numbers have increased when you think about it between last year and this year. So we're getting there. We're doing a positive trend up.
Yeah. And you know, just one family comes to mind where both of the siblings, they always had just a huge number of, if one was out, the other was out. And now we're at a point we realize this year where the one sibling is a little younger and he's at about 48 absences, and the other sibling is old enough now to get on the bus. And I want to say it was under 10. It was like 7 absences, and it's remarkable. So that child wants to come and is preparing herself for the day and getting here. So that is just, you know, and I've had some conversations with her about it because it's so impressive. And we see a lot of that too.
The next slide that we're going to show you is a little bit about discipline and what's been happening in our school. I know that you guys heard a little bit about it last year. I just want to give a recap of where incidents are occurring in the different locations in our school this year. The 2 top locations are in the bus and the teacher's classroom, but the rest are really kind of fairly dispersed throughout the school. There's the hallway, the cafeteria, grounds, which is actually the playground most of the time.
Most of the time.
Other restroom, gym, the office, library, and locker room. So here's where they're occurring. And so one of the big things that Mary always likes to use her term is
progressive discipline.
And how are we attacking the progressive discipline across different areas? So bus was our #1 area last year, and it still is an area of concern. However, we've worked really closely with the transportation department this past year. We've offered several different assemblies to continue to re-educate students throughout the year about what are the rules of the bus and the expectations. We have signage that's throughout the building that's at eye level length, so that way it can be referred to. When students are doing something wrong, we're able to go right back to those rules and talk about which one was violated and why that's a problem. And these things are really, they're making more of an impact, and students are taking a little bit more ownership.
And communication with parents, you know, and just really trying to let them know that it's a safety thing. We would never want anything to happen to your child. However, when your child is standing up on the seat and the bus is in motion and a deer crosses the road, what happens if the driver has to slam their brakes on? And for the most part, they're very receptive and speak to their children, and hopefully it doesn't happen again, right, Babja?
Any questions about this graphic?
And by progressive discipline, what we mean by that is that, I mean, barring some egregious behavior, if a child comes in and they do not have referrals, you have a conversation, you talk about, we like to do a restorative part, which really means, you know, that's teaching the child why what they're doing shouldn't be done, why it's wrong. And then the discipline part is kind of the consequence, right, for the behavior. But with progressive discipline, you come in, we have a conversation and I can give you a warning. And then if you come in the next time and we're having that continued problems, so now the discipline for it is going to progress.
On the last slide that we have for you, we had talked to you about it during our last presentation. We're returning to it again. We began this school year identifying essential standards. We really went one part at a time. One of the things, Mary and I were leading the PLCs this year, so teaching the teachers, how do we look at the standards in just one area? What are we going to go through to make sure there's a conversation around it? We don't want like a group of teachers, the one with the loudest voice being like, those are the 3 standards, we're going with that for all 6th grade. We really wanted them to communicate, agree, say, okay, this is what we're going to look at each quarter. And so we really started with writing, but we're moving into this summer, we're looking to identify essential standards in reading, in math, and in foundational skills. So that way each grade is able to vertically agree to what's going to be seen, and then they have conversations horizontally so that 1st grade team is able to tell the 2nd grade team, by the end of the year, kids in 1st grade will do this. This looks like this. So that way, the second grade team is expecting that when they come in, are able to see where students are moving the trajectory.
And the conversation can be even a little more in depth because we want the conversation to go something like, the first grade teacher is going to say, this is where our students leave at. And we want the second grade teacher to say, well, this is what we expect our students to know upon entering. And we kind of hope that they align, right? So it's just important to continue to have those types of professional conversations.
So they kind of tie in hand a lot, because a really big lift this year was making those norms and procedures for PLCs. How are we looking at data and how are we pulling information for it to inform our instruction? Or how are we doing something like looking at essential standards and following a procedure to make sure that we're giving everybody a voice and that everybody has a seat at the table in the conversation?
Yep, and fortunately, again, Lynette's been amenable to a lot of this, and we're going to be working on essential standards this summer, not only in the area of ELA, but in math, so that everybody's going to be on the same page.
Yeah, and then it also ties in a little bit to the third one as well. So having people really define what the standards mean. So sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that one sounds really good, but Lynette's interpretation and Bonnie's interpretation of it can be very different. So making that common language, making sure that the vocabulary that we're using is the same and understanding of it is the same. And that when we're teaching it to the kids and we're writing down the standards, that we are really teaching the same thing and instruction the same thing. So the students can make goals and reflect on their learning as well. And it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time, and I can imagine that in 3 years from now, what we thought were the essential standards this year are probably going to transform and change as we get better.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Council Einstein.
And I just want to add that everyone was really so excited. And for example, Laura and Mary had a 20+ slide deck with a lot of photos of kids in it celebrating all the wonderful things that are happening. I will put that in the board report so you can take a look at those, because we'd be here for hours. So, but I want you to be able to see the hard work that they put in. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, no problem. I only have 30 slides, so this is going to go quick. All right, so just some of the goals and what we're looking to work on this year, just a reminder. So communication to ensure consistent and accurate information for the staff, enhanced communication for safety drills, improved signage. Ashley talked about that a little bit before, and reorganizing the office spaces. So I found that we've had better communication departmentally this year. It allows us to exchange information and ideas better and understand expectations. So we're starting to see, more consistency in work and, what we're doing in the department. As far as safety drills are concerned, we conducted the required safety drills with the new SEP notification requirements, and that's gone very well. It lets everybody know what they should be expecting when the drill's coming. It lets them know that it's coming so that when we do it, people aren't, getting nervous about it and things like that. So worked with Alexis a lot on that, and she gets those notifications out a week in advance, and everybody knows what's going on. The fun stuff, speed limit signs, speed bumps installed throughout the campus. So I found out that if you put a speed bump out, people are going to try to figure out how to go around. So this week, the ones in the high school parking lot grew to twice the size they were last week. And the elementary ones are going to be doing that soon. So I see these slalom things happening. My office is right on the parking lot side, so I get to watch a lot of fun stuff. So we did do that. So we're sending the message and we're communicating that we want people to slow down. We posted the speed limit signs, which are 10 miles an hour. And I had the opportunity to work with Mary and Laura to figure out a drop-off and pickup traffic flow, specifically the drop-off stuff. And that was a lot of fun. I like doing maps and trying to figure out where cars go and all that stuff. So I'm not joking. It was fun for me. Not for them, but I had to stand out there. People didn't like it at first. But
I have to say it's working really well.
Yes, I think
when I read about it, I was like, this is going to be a disaster. I just thought it was going to be a nightmare, and it's working really, really well.
Do you know how many calls that we got saying it's going to be a disaster? I'm like, can you just give it a
I
try?
didn't call. I just stayed quiet. I was like, this is I only just thought it. I did not call.
Well, we received many compliments, and
Yeah, it's really
it has made
working.
life much easier.
that's good.
It's so good. It's so good.
That's good feedback. I like to hear that. We get one right every once in a while.
Yeah.
They thought that really throwing us out of the car, not being locked in car seats. I'm like,
Slow
no one's
down.
asking that. No one asked that.
All right, Joe, tuck and roll, tuck and roll. So, finally, support services, reorganizing office spaces, making progress on office moves. So we know that we have some moves that need to be made. So this year, we've already started clearing out some spaces. We have the space across the hall that's going to be the new board space, and I'm happy to report that that's almost completed. We're just waiting for some furniture and things like that. And we have plans for the new district office, and we worked on that throughout this year, and we're making good progress. And you know, I'm excited to get that going over the summer. It's going to keep us very busy. So I have for you tonight. Any questions?
Very good.
Okay,
Thank
good. Thank you.
John's up.
John is up. Hey, now this is a clicker and push that
I was gonna pick on you about the speed bumps, because I gotta get your men to move their cars just a little bit so I can do this. All right, technology. There was 3 goals that we started with at the beginning of the year. Tech plan for 2026. Where we're standing with that is the tech committee's been talking about it. We are gonna be doing digital training, with keeping that one in because it's worked so well. So that's the KnowBe4 training that you all do. New York State Ed Law 2D started in 2014. What year is this? 2025? And they're finally getting smart on how to do it. An example I thought of is in 2014, it was like a little little tiny car with a 4-cylinder. Okay. This year they have took the 4-cylinder out and put a V12 in it. So I'm excited about what's going to be happening with that because it's going to make my life easier. And you guys will be back in March. You guys signed it's not a policy, but something allowing us to be using the Student Data Privacy Consortium. That is 28 states of this great United States that are in that group. And I'm glad to be part with that with Connecticut. Connecticut's got the strictest rules for that. So we're in that group, and now we give the teachers a choice of 11,700 resources to be able to use. Where I can't, it's nice that I
I
can.
thought you were gonna make us more restrictive.
No, it's just trying to meet New York State standards, and it's been tough these last couple of years, but this coming year it's going to be nice. The webpage is going to be updated, and teachers will have more resources to use. One little drawback in all this, I've been to a couple meetings. Do you guys remember Power School had a security breach? January, February-ish? Okay. Power School, Hudson School uses that, correct? Okay, and a lot of New York State schools do. Well, a few do. I'd like to know what New York State Ed Law 2D is going to do to protect the data that was compromised. So if you guys talk to your legislature or you go to the board meetings, please ask them.
What is it called?
Power School was they had a breach and they sold their information. They had 2 things happen, okay? And what is New York State doing to rectify the situation? This law is supposed to protect our data. So I'm kind of curious what they're doing. You don't hear anything.
Okay.
So, just kind of throwing that out there. All right, the third goal we had is the School Bonds Act. Where we stand with that is the business office put in our bills, and we're waiting to hear back whether they are going to pay them or not, so that I can have a dollar amount. And then hopefully by the end of next year, you will have passed the remaining School Bonds Act money to be spent accordingly. Looking at, I've got a couple ideas. Wi-Fi is one. Our physical servers that are actually 32 servers need to be updated, so I'm hoping to use that money for that. Indicators of success. There's been, everybody else is talking about the year. I guess this is the year too, but the Titan Voyager is really starting to take off. We had a teacher use it. She dressed up as Mrs. Frizzle. Okay.
Oh, the magic school bus?
Thank you.
That's
And
cool.
I went out and taught her class in there. So that's kind of the cool thing. And then, one of the things I noticed, I'm trying to, what was Beth Flores's thing, on Bowling Lane? Spring in the Learning?
Yeah, spring learning.
Okay, so we had the bus set up then. I actually had parents coming to me and they were very impressed on the technology, the solar system and how the whole bus works. And I hope we can promote that more. So this was these first three things is year one of using them, okay? And I have found after being here for many, many years, the first year is a tough year to show progress, but after that, then you start to see it, okay? So again, the active floor and the Z-Space. The active floor, we were looking at 3 out of the 5 days of every week since January, that room was being used. So I was very pleased with that. Z-Space, on the other hand, it's being used as, oh, that's a cool thing. You know, you get to see the heart in 3D, and I'm hoping to get that more into the sciences and the classrooms and using it for labs and whatnot. So that's coming. The Skillshare rooms, my goals were higher than most, so we're going to be improving on that, and it'll be getting better. Now, these other things we've had for more than 1 year, so I expect them to be doing very well. Our help desk tickets, it's a program that Mr. Smith and I use. This year I found, since we had such a large turnover in teachers, that they kind of forgot or didn't know how to use it. So we're getting back into that, but we did have 300 tickets since September 1 that we've completed. There's still 25 sitting out there that we're working on. Just in our department, I don't know, I didn't look at yours. A lot of phone calls, a lot of stopping in the hallway, fix this, but 300 have been wrong. Working on a tech plan in the school bonds, that's coming up. I kind of discussed that. Know before training, 91% complete. This is year 4. 91% is the best we've had so far. I think the highest in the past was like 82, 83%. That means 26 people haven't done it yet, 5 of which are board members.
I did it. It's not me.
Okay. I thought it was only the board, and I was like, wow, which one of us?
I need a cheat sheet, that's what it comes down to.
No, so the board members, 50%.
Wow.
All right, you guys,
That's
okay.
I did mine. Begrudgingly, but I
That's
did.
50%, where's the 0.5?
I enjoy it.
Actually, I figured 10 board members because that kind of concludes. If you had any questions, I'll be
Well, thanks for having
I know that was very long, but thank you. I think it's really important to see how all the work that's being done and all the different layers that are going on each day, each week, and how everyone's worked together really well. And now Bobby Joe is gonna talk about our elected bus information and provide updates.
I don't know how I can follow John with that.
I think we always
can't
do this
blame
to
you
you.
for anything like this. But I do want to say that I do bring good news. I know I stood up here quite a few times and I'm giving you some like not so great news, but I do come bearing good news. However, first, I think the first part is, well, some of it stinks, or not. So just to recap, why did we do this? The New York State Environmental Bond Act required us to do this. We do have to be still 100% zero emission by 2035. There was talk in this budget, it was passed that those schools that are finding issues and complications with getting to that mandate, they are giving them a 2-year extension if they apply for it. So we got on the board with it. We started in May of 22, and I did put in there the new budget. So we were notified in October of 22, we were awarded almost $4 million for the buses, $200,000 for the infrastructure. We ordered them back in July of 23. We started our construction in June of 24. The construction is now complete. The whole process, I am happy to report, is complete because as of yesterday, we received our very last bus. So we have all the buses, which makes my day much better. And Ashley will be very thrilled to close this out, which also in that closing it out will give us the additional funds that will pay for the infrastructure. So the reality is that every single penny of this process is paid for in grants, because if you remember back, that grant money for the infrastructure covered what the taxpayers were going to have to pay. So there's no impact in this community part to the taxpayers, which is really great. I'm very happy to have that. So I think I'll let Nick, if you don't mind, just hitting on this part and a couple of things that are there.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to stay right here because it's real quick, but the electrical contract was $274,000, and as Bobby Joe just said, pretty much everything was covered either by the $200,000 that we got from the EPA Clean School Bus Program or the New York School Bus Incentive Program. So your infrastructure side was completely covered by grants.
And originally, that wasn't the case, right? When we first got the grant, that was not the case, correct?
Yeah, 350,000 is new.
Yeah.
I can't claim that until the 10th bus arrived, so now I can claim that. I have to do it by September in order to receive the funds.
We've been working really closely together, trying to make sure that we get all of our ducks in a row.
So yeah, I can talk about these a little bit. So basically, this is just the start of the construction for the charging stations where the pads are going to go. What you see happening here is the trenching and taking up of the concrete so that they can put the conduit in the trench. This is where the main power comes in, and that trench that goes, down the line on the left-hand side photo, that's going to the power pole. So that's where the main power comes in, and then it goes to that pad, and that's where the main meter and everything was set. This is the construction and layout of where the chargers go. So right here, they're framing out for where the concrete housekeeping pad will be that the charger sits on. And then you have your bollards that will be filled with concrete, which is in the top right-hand photo, so that if the bus runs into them, they won't hit the charger. We have a dented bus. There's your rebar before concrete pour, the completed pad with the bollards. And the left-hand photo is just where the power pole is, bottom left. And then the bottom right is a completed station with the protective bollards and then some cones just to make sure that nobody runs into them because they are brand new.
Okay, so now we get to the buses. So as I said, all 10 buses are delivered. The first one was delivered back in November, the last one yesterday. It truly was a great day for me. So we have been doing a lot of training. As you know, we've done some training with our bus drivers. We have held training with our first responders back last year. So this year we're kind of going to, I have been speaking with the Columbia County emergency coordinators, so they can send it out to any fire companies or anyone who wants to give me a call, make arrangements. They can come look at where our shut-offs are, where everything is, any emergency equipment, just to kind of have a sense in case there ever is an emergency here. They know what they're looking for, where they should be going to find things. They like to keep that on file. We have bus drivers who are extremely excited, some who are a little bit still apprehensive. We're working through that. We have found that, you know, the more that we just kind of work through every day, someone else becomes a little bit more receptive to it, which has been really happy for me to see that, you know, they're working together as a team, all of the drivers, and really trying to make it a more positive thing. So we are talking with the bus drivers, if anybody wants to come in over the summer and really just get a better feel of the buses. They drive exactly the same as any other bus. I will tell you that. They are not any different besides how the parking brake works, really. So our software integration has been a struggle. I won't lie to you. It's been a struggle. It's been really difficult trying to find where we need to be. Really what we found is having issues with the software program. It doesn't talk to the buses like we thought it would, like it was said that it
Where's the
was.
software program from?
So the chargers have a software program that goes with it that is installed on our computers. And that's how.
Who owns that, the bus company?
No, so the In Charge, which is the charger company, so they have their own software, and that's called In Control. So we've been trying to navigate with them how to set up the charging, how it works, because the buses need a trickle charge in order for their 12-volt batteries not to die. I'll talk about that, well, we're up here. So the 800-volt battery that's in the bus charges. What happens is when it loses charge, the bus comes back, it parks. The bus driver plugs it in, the charging software then charges the main battery, and then it stops charging. But there are computer systems in the bus that need to continually run because there needs to be a 70-degree temperature that needs to maintain in this coolant that runs around the battery. It keeps it from getting too hot or too cold. This is important. So when the charger stops charging to the main battery, the 12-volt batteries pick up that. Where we find that this becomes an issue is on like a weekend or a break. And so we need like a keep warm feature, a trickle charge to maintain that 70-degree temperature. So we've been trying to talk with the customer service of the software company to figure out how do we do this. Well, it's very difficult because as I've found, they're not, I don't think in our country, I'm not sure exactly where they are, but they're definitely on a different time zone. We can't ever talk with them. It's definitely been a struggle. However, once it happens that the 12-volt batteries get to about 11% charge, the Gigavac switch, which is like a little switch in the battery box, it shuts it off. And what that does is it's a safety feature to not allow the batteries to be completely drained, but also doesn't allow like anything to happen. It's just a safety. So what happens is that switch pops on a Saturday. On Monday morning, that switch needs to be reset, and then the bus needs to go through an entire reset before it can be pulled off the lot. So if you just get in, you split the switch, you get in, you drive the bus, it goes into what's called turtle mode. And that doesn't allow the bus to go very fast. Pedal to the floor, bus does 5 miles an hour. So that's something we've been trying to navigate through. It's been hard, but I think I've been working with the vendor for the buses who has been really helpful in trying to navigate this. And I did hear actually from the software company today, they sent me an email in the middle of the day, usually it's 10 p.m., to let me know that they think that they have a program that may help us, and we're going to try that. They're supposed to implement it today or tomorrow so we can see over the weekend, because that's when we really would actually see if it works or not, because the buses are then not being used and they're sitting for 2 days in a row. This is what our software program looks like. This is what I see on my computer when I look at the dashboard. So it tells me that the charger is connected to that it's all connected, the electricity, it's available, it's ready to go.
So available means you can plug the bus in, it's all set. It will tell you if it's not, it will tell you if there's a problem. Looking at another section of it, it's too big to just give you the whole picture in one. So on the dashboard, it also gives you how many sessions, how many kilowatts per hour that, we have done in total, what we are using, how many chargers are available, one that's occupied at the time that I took this, one that was unavailable, and it tells you your average duration is 1 hour and 22 minutes. But it also gives you your fuel displacement of like 58 gallons of fuel. And then this is an actual charge. So this is a completed charge for a bus. This bus actually did a bus run. I think if you remember back to the last time I talked to you, going up Shepherd's Hill, which is Route 22, there's a lot of hills up there. Josh actually took this bus on a bus run, did all of the hills in the morning, picked up all of the students. He left the bus garage at 98%. He came back at 78%. He plugged it in. It took 1 hour and 6 minutes to charge. It actually, very efficient. He had some heat, not a lot, but he managed. And that's one of the runs that we were really concerned about, whether it was going to be efficient or not. This proved that it was. So as of now, it's great. I'm very hopeful. I'm very happy to see this. I think that it's really a wonderful thing to come to fruition. This also is another section of how it's set up. So each session has an ID number. When you click on it, it does tell you which the vehicle, the completed status. It tells you what the battery started at, what the battery stopped at. So you can see 99%. And the total over on the very side, you can see the total energy of what it does charge. And then this is the second half of it across the screen. And you can get an idea how long, all the dates and the times of when it was plugged in and what it's doing. But it comes at a cost. The guys have worked really hard trying to add these 10 buses into their DOT rotation. The preventative maintenance checks, these are just some of the things that they have to do. This is on every single bus that is in our fleet, not just the electric buses. So they're adding 10 more buses into their rotation of this, which our buses are DOT'd every 6 months. So their rotation, they have to try to figure out how to get them in there without upsetting everything else and not allowing anything to go over. But in that time, they still have to maintain all that. So they're trying to work through that. It is a lot with them driving. They're really, really pushing. So Norm's been working really hard trying to figure out a better schedule and how to make sure everything gets DOT'd when it needs to, but also gets the checks when it needs to. Because when the DOT inspector comes, he needs to see that they did all of that in order to pass the bus. It's not just checking the whole bus. But with that, we've been doing some data tracking. So we've been running the buses for a couple of months now. You probably have seen them, but maybe not because they're still yellow. Unless you really stop and look at them, you can't really tell that it's an EV bus unless you hear it. They do have a little hum to them. But we've been trying to track, this is just a little thing, but if Alexis, I just wanted to give you a quick look once it loads. There we go. We'll go down. So this particular bus has been going on a regular route. We've been holding this one on the same route every day because we want to I want to monitor what temperature does to it. If it's super hot or if it's super cold. We've been rotating all the rest of the buses, so all 10 of them are there. Every one of them has this same kind of setup. You can see that it has the date, the time that they did it. So morning, afternoon run, it was 45 degrees, 47 degrees, 46 miles, 67 miles, 97% they started at, and 100%. They ended at 58 and 51, 58. So they used 39% in the morning, 49% in the afternoon. But in the AM, they used a lot of heat. In the afternoon, they used some heat. They did an additional 515 route, no charge in between. So we've been kind of playing with that to get really good data. And I mean, it just goes, we try to keep up every day. The drivers actually have logs in each one of the buses. So every time that an electric bus gets driven, they have to mark down all of that information on the log because then they have to turn it in to me. I try to get them every week. In order to have the knowledge, the data, where are we at, what are we using? This is important to us because if we don't have that information, then how do we keep track? How do we know if they're really efficient for us?
Sorry.
It's okay, I just don't know where we are. So we're looking for range, driver behavior, because some drivers drive a little differently than others. Some use their brakes a little more, some maybe drive a little faster than another. What their idle time is, their charging patterns, if they're doing extra runs, if they're not. The temperature monitoring. I think it's important to monitor the outside temperature. So we're not really looking at the bus temperature, we're looking at outside. How does it affect it? We did find that cold weather does affect it a little bit more with the charging, as well as the bus, because then you need heat, so then it drains the battery a little bit more, but it doesn't make it so it's not useful. We have found that the hot temperatures, and we're about to find out tomorrow and next week, what the outside hot temperature is. We did find like a week or so ago, we had some warm temperatures. And in that time, we did find that does play a role in the bus. It does play like the regenerative braking and the amount of force being put onto the motor warms up the bus. So when you're going down a hill, they'll watch the temperature of the bus actually come up. So it's something that we're trying to kind of look at. It's not like it's a safety issue. We see that in our diesel buses. The same exact thing happens because of the force going down the hill. So nothing to be alarmed about, nothing at all. I don't want to make anybody nervous. We're also looking at the metrics against the diesel buses. How much cost? What's the usage? What are we in comparing that? The maintenance and operating costs. So we're not really at the maintenance and operating costs because they're brand new. So we don't have any of that at this time. We'll be looking at that though as we move forward. So we have found 27% battery loss on a route with many hills, no heat, no students. That's something we found. That was on a day that we had taken it out without any kids, but a 20% battery loss, same route, minus 2 hills. They didn't go all the way to the Canaan truck stop and up West Hill, if anybody knows where that is, in Austerlitz. But they didn't go up there. That's all that they minus, but they picked up every student on the run, which makes a difference because now you're stopping, starting again. We did have a run, 91 miles, and he came back with 40% battery. To me, that actually gives us the same statistics that they gave us when we were buying the buses, like they can do 100 miles. So this, without heat, they can. He could have easily done another probably 20-ish miles, maybe a little bit more. But the average battery usage is between 35-50%, depends on the route, depends on the miles. We're now exploring, now that we know that they do bus runs, we're now kind of like pushing out to do like some of the drivers' extra runs just to get a better idea. And we're monitoring the battery and power performance. We've been having some issues with some battery connections in buses, which we've been working really closely with Matthews and In Charge. So Matthews has actually, who is our bus vendor, with all the issues that we had with our software with In Charge, they actually came down here on the 2nd of June. They had 3 HP, which is the high voltage technicians. They can work on every part of the bus. Our vendor rep, Petra, the service director, Rob Baker, service manager, Sean, the senior sales rep, Ronnie, they all came down here. They brought everything. They brought all the diagnostic testing that would help with the battery, from the battery company, from the chassis company, from the bus manufacturer. So they came down here, they took all 9 buses, well, 8 buses, They took 8 buses out and they ran all the diagnostic testing. They took them for a ride. They checked batteries. They checked everything to find out what's going on. We were complaining that they were having issues going up the hill. We were having issues charging. We were having issues with like a connection. The bus would get hot. Things would happen. So what they found was one bus actually has a battery connection issue, which is not something that they can replace here in our shop. It has to go back, but I did find out from Sean, he did email me the other day to let me know that that bus is actually going to have to go back to Ballston Spot. It will be towed because it cannot be driven because it doesn't start. So they're gonna tow it back up there, and the entire battery pack has to be replaced. That is not a cost to us. That's nothing that not one penny of that is on us. They will take care of that, and it really is just a connection piece. They have another bus that they took back that day. There's something called the heat exchanger in the traction motor sensor. I never thought in a million years that I would know what any of this stuff is. But there is an issue with that. That too has to be changed up at their shop, but it's replacing the entire motor traction sensor. So they'll take care of all that, and then once those buses are done, they'll bring them back to us. But don't be alarmed when you do see the one bus being towed. It is not because it broke down on the side of the road, I assure you. It is just going to get the repair from here.
Oh, don't worry, it'll be on Facebook then.
My thought was.
Don't you worry about that.
My first consideration was asking him to do it at midnight. The other consideration was we take a picture and get ahead of it and maybe publicize that in advance of trying to make people feel a little less worried. Something I was trying to figure out, I have been trying to figure out our consortium. I've never used it, but I've been running some reports. So our gallons versus usage. So you'll see, so the blue is all the diesel gallons that we've used in March, April, and May. I had reports done. And then the red is the electricity usage. So, you can see that the electricity usage is less. The difference is, and I have to remind you, is that right now we don't have 2 buses plugged into every single charger right now. We're trying to, figure out how we're going to get around all of that. And we've got a bus plugged in, and then we'll rotate the buses out and trying to just get a good idea of how it's going to be, because we do know that it's a 60 kilowatts. When you plug 2 buses in, it's now 30. So we know that we're going to play with that this summer, try to get a better idea. So our cost, you can see our diesel costs are quite higher versus the electricity costs themselves. So we've spent less in the electricity. But again, goes back to we're not running at full capacity. But when you look at how much we pay per gallon for diesel versus electricity, now estimated estimated cost per kilowatt hour versus the per gallon, you see we're fairly close to even. So right now it's looking like it's not a huge difference, and things are, in my estimation, my thought, I think they're going well.
What are you paying per kilowatt hour now?
Well, our estimation is about $2.50. I don't know,
$2.50 per kilowatt hour?
So that's my estimated average cost. I am not exactly sure because I'm learning how to use the consortium, so I can't tell you exactly what. Yeah, I don't know if you.
So it's tough to actually get you that number exactly because we are billed with demand charges. So if you plug all of the buses in and you draw 600 kilowatts, and it even happens for just 15 minutes, you're going to get a demand charge for 600 kilowatts. And that's usually in the ballpark of $15 per kilowatt hour. That's just one time. So just count on peaking your grid at one time. So, you could only hit 400 or 450. So your bills are really gonna fluctuate depending on how you manage your load. And then we have a per kilowatt hour charge for like delivery and stuff like that you're used to seeing on your regular electricity bill. And that's gonna be in the range of like 7 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So that $2.50 number or thereabouts, I don't know exactly how you came to that, but basically we could be taking the demand charge, adding it to the supply charge, and then dividing that out for that particular month. So your demand charge is always gonna be a really big number though, because it's times $15, and then, you're gonna get charged 10 cents per kilowatt hour after that. We have the same thing here for the school building.
Because I seem to recall a couple of years ago that we were paying 10 cents per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, it's right, it's still in that ballpark, it might even be a little bit less than that, but then when you drop your demand charge on top of that, things start to get expensive.
So which is how I came up with this, but thank you, Nick, because I'm learning about electricity as we go. So moving forward, we're tracking our electrical usage and costs, our feedback from the stakeholders, drivers, who are finding that they actually really enjoy driving the buses. One of the drivers reported to me, my kids were really loud and because the bus is so quiet. And he's like, but it was funny, like shortly into the run, they realized how loud they were and they got quiet. And he's like, I could hear the kids in the back of the bus actually talk to me, which is really nice. So they like that because they can have more interaction and they can hear more with what's going on. And I will report that I have actually been asked if every one of them can drive an electric bus tomorrow and Monday because their AC is top notch. So they all want the AC bus. So I was like, well, it's not full AC in the back, but they want it for them. Students, I have had a lot of students who are really happy. Some who are like, I don't like this, but they're adjusting to it. We have had some parents who, when we pull up to the bus stop, are like, an electric bus, but they put their kid on it and they go about their day. So as much as some parents have really been opposed to it, they're really giving it a try. We haven't had any phone calls. I have instructed all the drivers, if the parent is really having a problem, to have them reach out to me. And they could just drive their child instead of putting their child on the bus if they're that uncomfortable in that time, until we can talk about it and then try to come up with a resolution. But we haven't had any of that. We've not had any, I haven't had any phone calls. I don't think the district office has had anything. So I think we're moving forward in a positive motion, at least to mine. We are giving more training to our drivers, making them feel more comfortable. We're going to use them this summer and do as much as we possibly can. And we plan to roll them out in September on as many routes as we can. Now, as we get into the colder months, we're going to see what's going to happen. I don't know, but we're going to work on it. We're going to navigate it, and we're going to see. The only thing we can do is try it, that's my opinion. Any questions?
I just have a couple of comments, actually, and you probably know where I'm going to go because I bring it up every time. Right, you know where I'm going. So we've from November to June, we've gotten 9 of the buses, and your report said we've only run 2 to 4 of those buses since then. We finally got our 10th bus here in June. Again, where's that warranty going to be? We're not using these buses. Where are they going to honor a warranty? Because they dropped that 10th bus. Does the warranty start the day they drop that bus?
So the warranty does start when they drop it. So something
That's a problem.
But something that wasn't taken into consideration when the 10 buses were put into place is we used to have that many in-district routes, which would say that 10 buses was what we would need. But we no longer have that. We have 7 in-district routes, 6 really, and we're looking that we may have to combine because of trying to make driver shortage. So there's always going to be buses sitting there. And I can't help that because that's how it is. We can't expect the vendor to honor, change the warranty based upon that, because that's something that we made as a district. In ordering the 10 buses, that's what we needed then. They have been really great about giving us any kind of warranty, any additional resources.
So I have nothing bad to say about them in that sense because they have tried really hard, but it is obviously the same warranty as we get with any other vendor when they drop the bus, whether we use the bus or not, the warranty starts. But
Well,
we
with the
will-
diesel buses, we were using them. We didn't,
Well,
they
but
drop a
even-
diesel bus and don't use it.
But even the diesel buses that we haven't used, you know, they sit there until we use them, the small buses as well. But there's always going to be, 3 to 4 buses sitting on a regular basis. So we're trying to rotate through them in order to ensure that they get usage. We did have some buses that were having issues, so we didn't really use them because we needed to get them fixed first, which is where we're at now. So we do have people who are kind of rotating those buses through, to make it better. I know that the warranty bothers you, Bonnie. I'm sorry.
Well, my point is this, you know, 5 years in, and then all of a sudden, things are gonna happen with these buses, and you know who's gonna be raising their hand going,
I understand.
just saying.
Well, now, with that bus that they had to take back up to Paulson Spot, they dropped it off, warranty started, but it wouldn't work. So
It did work, and then it broke. So it worked and it broke. So we were running it, and then there was an issue, so they took it back. Because they ran it, the one that came and that is currently not working, we did try to run that, and then the issue happened with the battery and it died. So we did drive some of those buses before anything happened, because you're trying to get through the bugs and work out all the kinks before that. So. Any other questions?
You're doing great. You're doing great, Bobby. Yes.
I have a couple. You had a chart over there that showed some carbon penalties that was saved or with the environment.
I'm not in charge.
That one.
there. Now, there's that 458.59 CO2 savings. Does that include the coal that was burned at the coal plant to put the electricity into the bus? Or is that only what we're figuring what we saved on the fuel?
I don't know the answers to that, Joe. I
Columbo
would say,
always asks questions that he knows the answer to.
I would go out on a
Now-
limb to say that that's what they're saying, that it's saved here, not the coal part.
Right. So, and then the other question I had is with the heating up. I understand that when you put it in regen mode, electricity makes heat. And you made a comment that the diesel buses do the same thing. Well, when a fossil fuel vehicle decelerates, it shuts the fuel off, so there's no more combustion. So where would the heat be coming from when it's decelerating?
So I can only say that talking to both of the guys and getting that answer, that they said that our diesel buses do the same, they heat up, but once you are off of that push back into the motor, then they cool back down, which we found with the electric bus as well. Once you get off of that downhill.
Except if it's in regen.
Well,
If
it's not
regen, when
really,
it makes electricity, it makes heat. The regen charges the batteries when you're going downhill. By the way, during snow, you wouldn't be able to use that because the bus would spin out. So you're not gonna be able to use regen when it's snowing out. It's just like using a Jake brake when it's snowing out. You can't. So in the wintertime, you can't regen the tires, regen the batteries when it's snow. So.
Because of the bus? Just curious.
No, because the wheels will drag on the snow trying to charge the batteries.
Doesn't happen much.
I don't know. I don't know about cars. I know about heavy vehicles. What the computer would do probably is shut down the regen so it don't skid, so then you're still not regenerating the battery.
so I will say that they have used these
If the
out in
computer
Western
works.
New York, and Bethlehem has used them. They haven't found any of spinning out or any of those issues, so I can only say that they've used them in the
No, because it
winter.
won't use it, so you're gonna lose,
Well, I
you're
don't
gonna
know
lose the
if they're-
benefit of regen.
I don't know
in
if
the
they're
winter.
using it or not, but I just know that they haven't found any of those.
Thank you, Bobby Joe, because I feel like there's been a tremendous amount of progress this year in the work that's been done. So thank you.
Well, thank you. microphone's back on now.
Can I have a second, ladies? Trying to get to where we were.
I need light. Okay. All right, superintendent report.
Oh, I'll be fast.
Yay. So she already told me she was gonna be fast.
Okay, well, I just really want to say that it was great tonight to have a significant milestone for a group of teachers. They have shown themselves to be exceptional educators, and we're happy to have them here. And looking forward to them continuing to have a lasting impact on our students and our school community. I do want to thank Erin Schrader for being our student board member this year, and also our valedictorian, but it's been great to get to know you. It's amazing how much you can learn about somebody from just talking a few times and hearing them present, so thank you. You've been wonderful to have on board. I want to say that I'm excited that we're going to be welcoming 3 student board members next year: Clyde Drake, Francesca Schifano, and Violet Wallace. I'm excited that we're going to have 3 to just elevate student voice and leadership, and they will be sharing regular reports with their perspectives and priorities. And I think it's just a reminder of who we serve each day and the work we do. And lastly, I just want to thank Heidi Main for 5 years of dedicated service on the Board of Education. Through the 2 years that I've been here, I've been grateful that I've gotten to know you and to see how much you have demonstrated your commitment to our school district, your willingness to learn and grow with us, to be willing to take chances, to ask hard questions, good questions, and your contributions to meaningful dialogue and progress. Thank you so much.
I'd like to add something to that. You join the board, you have a collection of, oddballs.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm the king of the oddballs. But you find a way to mesh because you have a common goal, and that's the well-being of the school. That's the bottom line of everything. And I'm so happy that I've got to become friends with Heidi, and she's been wonderful, and she's given her all, and she shows how much she cares about the school, and that takes a lot. And we love you, and wish you nothing but happiness and joy the rest of your life. And you can come back anytime because I'm available. I give you tickets because there's going to be empty seats every once in a while. No, but anyway, congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say mine's additional items to discuss, but now that you opened that door. When Heidi first started getting involved with school, she was very involved with the PTO, and that PTO in the elementary school was wonderful. And since she's left, it's probably not quite been the same, but you always did an excellent job in whatever you did for the school district. And when you got on the board, I was very happy that you were getting on the board because I knew the work that you did for the PTO, so I was very excited. And of course, I always called her and Alicia my 2 little unicorns because everything was glitter and, and so that was just who they were. And, you, as you know, I'm not always like that. I'm kind of like, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. But they always brought a lot of joy to me just being around them because of all the great ideas they would have to bring the glitter to the school. So I'm going to miss you tremendously, and I love you. We just want to present you with this slide.
Thank you.
Thank you for your honor and integrity.
Thank you.
Is that the end of your report? The audit committee report, we're not doing, right? Ashley, or?
We had audit committee last month. We met with Patty.
Yeah, but then we do it at the meeting or no?
You gave a report already.
I did.
Yeah.
You did.
Okay.
Okay, the student liaison report, Aaron.
Good evening. The first topic I'm going to talk about is student achievements. This last week, there was an in-school award ceremony, and a variety of awards were given at this award ceremony, ranging from highest average in particular subjects to certificates like to students who completed the Seal of Biliteracy or the Seal of Civic Readiness. Students also received their pins and guards at this award ceremony. And these are given out for students who maintained honor roll throughout the entire year. Questar 3 National Technical Honor Society induction. Taconic Hills had 3 students who are Justin Dalton, Joshua Banyard, and Renee Lapolis, who are all seniors. And these 3 students were inducted into the Questar Technical Honor Society. The next topic is school events and activities. Back in May, the Belmont Village had a Memorial Day parade, and the junior-senior band performed and represented Taconic Hills, and they all performed well and represented the school well. The next idea is the upcoming graduation. So this will be held on June 27th at 6 p.m. A ticket is required for attendance. However, the graduation will be live streamed for anybody that's not able to come to the in-person graduation. And there's the graduation is also going to be live streamed in the cafeteria for as like an overflow kind of area for any people that are at the school who aren't able to see the graduation in person in the Performing Arts Center. The next idea is the sixth grade moving up ceremony. On June 24th at 9 a.m., there will be a moving up ceremony held for these 6th graders that are moving up to 7th grade. The next idea is the dodgeball tournament. This past month, the middle school student council put on the dodgeball tournament that's held every year, and there was a large number of students that participated in this event. But what was nice about it this year was that it was held directly after school. So students who don't have transportation all the time were able to attend and be a part of the event, as they were able to take the after-school buses home. The next idea is the Bananagrams tournament. The second annual Bananagrams tournament was held in the library. This tournament drew in quite a few students, and a lot of students enjoy playing Bananagrams, which started out really small in the library, and the librarians have expanded like the amount of kids that play, but instead of kids sitting by themselves or going to resort to using their phone in the library, there's a lot of students that are now playing Bananagrams, and this is an opportunity for them to interact and get away from their phones for a little bit. And many younger students are starting to play the game as well, which kind of then spreads out to more students. And it's like it's a lot of times you play with students you aren't really familiar with or you don't really know, and so you kind of get to meet new people, and some of the younger students get to play with like older students and see kind of that the older students aren't as intimidating as they may seem. The next idea is a time capsule opening. So in 4th grade, students who had Mr. Rao and Mrs. Hunter had written to their future selves, and in these time capsules they wrote like things that they liked back then, people they were friends with, and what they hope to do when they graduate. And Mr. Rao and Mrs. Hunter put on like a pizza party, but they also collected video. So back when we were in 4th grade, they had recorded each student saying kind of what they wanted to do once they graduated from high school. And so all of the students got to watch that together and see kind of where we're going versus where we thought we were going to go. But it also allowed us to see that some of the students have made poor choices, and it kind of shows you how, like, within not that many years, poor choices can really lead you down the wrong path. The next idea is the 8th grade science fair. This past month, the 8th grade held their annual science fair. There were a variety of different projects, and there were winners as well as runner-ups chosen. And there were multiple winners and multiple runner-ups. But a few of the projects were the effects of acid rain on our plants and what kind of bait catches the most fish. So there was kind of a large variety of different types of projects. The next idea is the Flag Day Assembly. For Flag Day, there's assembly held in the elementary, and the elementary students sung to the veterans, which was a great way for the students to interact with the community a little bit, because these veterans were invited from the community to attend the assembly. The next idea is Dairy Days. Last week, the school had celebrated Dairy Days. Students in grades, so this was celebrated in both the elementary and the high school. So for example, in the elementary, students in grades 2 through 8 got to explore their mobile dairy classroom. And then in the high school and the elementary, the food service staff had participated with dairy themed items. So kind of the breakfast items and the lunch items had to do with dairy in some sort of way. In the high school, when the high schoolers received their lunch, they received a raffle ticket, and then they could put the raffle ticket in one of the prizes that were there, and then a ticket was drawn at the award ceremony for the students to see like who had won the prizes. But all of the prizes were cow themed. So like some of the prizes included a cow printed blanket to like just there were bottles of milk. And then additionally, 2 calves were brought here from a local farm, and these were here, and students were able to interact with the cows. Next idea is the senior trip. The senior trip took place on June 3rd and 4th, which was at Pocono Valley. The students had a great time, and there were a ton of things to do, from kayaking to the class played beach volleyball, like all together, which was really nice. But in addition to all of the activities, they also had like campfire s'mores. They had like a karaoke session, and they had like kind of like a pizza party, I guess you would call it. But it was really well received by all of the students. Field day. Last Friday on June 13th, the seniors had a field day. At this field day, there were a variety of events ranging from relay races, which mocked what the relay races were back when we were in elementary, up to like games like kickball. But it was a great day for the seniors. They got to play together one last time and just have fun together. That morning, the seniors also had their senior breakfast, which is where they received their caps and gowns. And then later, after the senior field day, there was the walkthrough, which took place where the seniors get to walk through the high school and the elementary one last time. And they just get to kind of, it's like a celebratory walk of accomplishing so much to get to graduation. PIA teacher. The senior class held a PIA teacher fundraiser. The 2 staff members with the most tickets got pied. And this happened at the in-school award ceremony, and this was very well received by all students. The place went wild.
Who were the teachers?
The two staff members were Dr. Teeter and Mrs. Turner, who is the physics teacher.
So is the physics teacher.
I bought a lot of tickets.
What was nice was two tickets were chosen from each person's envelope, and those students chosen were the ones that got to pie the teachers. But the kids loved it, especially like toward the end of the year.
Wait, can I say something for that? I appreciate that the teachers and Dr. Cheater volunteered, right? You didn't have to do it, but my kids were telling me about it. They said, oh, they volunteered to do it. So that was, and they enjoyed it.
The next idea is the DARE graduation. So this past month, the 5th graders had graduated from the DARE program, and in this program, the students learn to, they learn how to resist against drugs and violence, and ways to like avoid being peer pressured into bad situations, which is good to see a program like that, especially around a time when kids are like becoming teenagers and they're going to encounter situations where they might be peer pressured, but this program allows them to learn how to deal with those kinds of situations. The next topic is positive changes. So this year, when the seniors had their walkthrough, there was a video taken of all of the, I believe it was pre-Kers waving into the camera, and then there was, at the end of the video, it was the seniors dressed in their caps and gowns waving to the camera. But the video was nice because it shows kind of how you start off little and then end up as big kids graduating, but it shows like how putting in all of that hard work leads to you graduating with something that you can go and use in your future. And that will conclude my report, but I want to thank the board for this opportunity. I've always been like the first one to present in front of my peers, like in classes. Like I've never had a problem with presenting in front of people my age, but I've always been nervous presenting in front of older people, which I don't really know why. So this position has kind of pushed me out of that comfort zone to present in front of people that aren't the same age as me, which is great, and I thank the board for that opportunity.
You've done very well.
The reports are so well detailed and they've been excellent. You've been a very good student liaison to the board.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best.
Congratulations.
Where you going to school?
Binghamton University.
Oh, nice.
Right. Board of activity reports. Start with you, Janine. Anything?
I can't remember. I think track stuff, but that's over. I'm glad school's over. My first year, I'm glad we survived. School's over. I'm looking forward to the summer.
I'm not saying, but I heard her blasting Alice Cooper out in the evening.
I did board stuff, that's right.
I went to the scholarship award ceremony, the athletic award ceremony. We had a welcome to the new board member who seems awesome. She's worked here before as a teacher and she's currently an assistant principal in Dutchess County. I appreciate Heidi so much and thank you, Heidi. I'm gonna miss you a lot, but we'll hang out. And I also went to state quals and 3 of our students made it to states for track this year.
Nice.
Clyde and Emilio, and Ethan didn't get to go because he injured himself. But Clyde and Emilio went, they did a great job, and Angela Webster even got to show up and see. We weren't there Saturday, but she did a great job going all the way out there to support the kids. So shout out for the good athletic program. That's it.
Some of what she did, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Margaret touched on it. We did our welcome, introduction to our new board member, which I thought was so cute and awesome. And
It was a
great introduction. So
yeah, that was good.
I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss looking over at you and you're just such a nice energy to have around.
I'm gonna miss all you guys as well. It's been awesome being part of the board for 5 years. It's nice to have new relationships with all you guys. It's been awesome. We've accomplished a lot of wonderful things together.
I think so.
Hi, Lynette.
Let's not get crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I haven't done much. I've been running to Boston too much, so.
Got nothing.
Yeah, me either. Well, me and Rick are gonna meet some people tomorrow. We might have a new project now that we've got the daycare. So, but more news to come. Okay, let's get the new business going. All right, I need a motion for the design services proposal. Motion, please. Molly, thank you, Molly. Second. Heidi, any questions on that? All in favor? All right, next up, we have policies. So I need a motion first, Molly, and then Margaret. And I'm gonna let Margaret talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, there's 3 second reads on here. So this is the social media guideline. That was a very slight change. We have a brand new policy, the 4001 concurrent enrollment programs, which is just laying out how it works for any of our special things we offer high school students. The BARD program, the New Visions, how that works for new incoming students. You have to have already been going to school here so that we can assess and have teachers assess if they would be a good fit for that. And then we hadn't revised since 2014, the student staff relations fraternization, and that got updated. And please read the policies. We have a bunch of first reads that are out there right now, so we're going to want your input for the second reads on those. We got a lot done, and when we moved to full digital during the meeting, hopefully
it was great to not have to make my edits.
We did it, so that was big for the policy.
All right, any questions on those? All in favor? Okay, so now we have the new course approval. You see the advanced placement in Spanish. Can I have a motion, please? Joe and Heidi, any questions on that? All in favor? Now we have a textbook adoption. We have a Spanish, science, and social study textbooks. Motion, please. Margaret, Heidi, any questions? All in favor? Contracts. Okay, so we have all the listed contracts there. I'm not going to read them all, but you can all see them. I need a motion for those contracts, please. Molly and Rick. Any questions? All in favor? Okay. We have donations, so we have $500 from the Rensselaer Columbia Green Health Insurance Trust for the Wellness Committee and unused books from Northern Columbia County Rotary. Can I have a motion, please? Margaret and Joe. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, we have the New York Seal of Civic Readiness. I need a motion for that, please. Heidi and Margaret. Any questions? All in favor? We have the New York Seal of Biliteracy. Can I have a motion, please? Molly, second. Margaret. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, we have the resolution authorizing participation in the Cooperative Energy Purchasing Service for electricity. Motion, please. Margaret, second. Heidi? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, so now we have an MOA with the Chicana Hills Faculty Association to have a 7th and 8th grade clay shooting club. Motion, please. Molly and Heidi. Any questions? All in favor? All right, an MOA with the Chicana Hills Faculty Association to for a pre-K content coordinator. Motion, please. Molly and Rick. Any questions? All in favor? An MOA with the Chicana Hills Faculty Association for an elementary positive behavior interventions and support coordinator. Motion, please. Joe, second. Margaret, any questions? All in favor? All right. Now we have summer curriculum projects, so I'm not going to talk about, you're going to read them all. Motion, please. Ron and Heidi, any questions? All in favor? All right, we're disposing of some various textbooks and some 71 Inspire calculators. Motion, please. Molly and Margaret? Any questions? All in favor? All right, so now we have some educational service contracts and they're listed there. Motion for those? Margaret, second. Molly? Any questions? All in favor? Okay, we have so this is our new student board members. We have 3 of them. We have Clyde Drake, Francesca Schifano, and Violet Wallace. I need a motion, please. Heidi and Joe. Any questions?
All 3 at once?
They're gonna alternate, yeah, they're gonna rotate.
Wait, were you worried about 3 reports?
I
Curious.
That's even better, yeah.
we have 3 very highly qualified candidates.
Oh, no, they're fantastic, I'm sure.
They got big shoes to fill.
But we just went from the Michael Jordan of.
Right.
Well, that's true. Okay, all in favor? All right. Oh, so now over to the personnel agenda? Oh, yeah, okay. Personnel agenda, so we have A all the way through to
The express lane.
T. Wait, is summer programming part of that? Yeah, summer program is part of that too, so. So I need a motion for the personnel agenda, Molly and Margaret. Is there any questions on that? So we have our,
Can I just?
you can, yes.
I just want to welcome Dr. Elsa Courtwright
Yes.
for us. We changed the name of the position. The role is very similar, but.
That's on E and then G.
Yes, but I just want to say that we look forward to having her join our team and to work with us, and very grateful that you could be here tonight.
Yes.
To be a part of this, to welcome and get to know some of our teachers that have been newly tenured, and really you got a full dose of all the work that's been done in the last 2 years.
Yeah, right, that's true.
No questions on the first day. But we're also very excited that you can join us very close to the start of the new school year to be a part of all that we're doing. And thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm really excited about the establishment of the stream position. I'm glad about that. What else do we have here? We have some student teachers that are coming, got 2 of them, that's nice. And what else? Anything else? Oh. And summer programming. Oh, Mike talked about the summer credit recovery. Okay, anybody got any other questions? All in favor? All right. Is there another public forum? Anybody for that one?
We have about 3 people. Kidding.
What? Okay, additional items to discuss. I just want to remind the board, July 21st is our retreat. Alexis is still working on a place for us to have that retreat. It'll be probably like, is it going to be from 5 to like 8:30? It's a long one. It's where we're going to really talk about how we're going to align our goals to the strategic goals. So it's going to be some work.
I'll feed you.
So we're gonna have this at a spa or something, you know?
Yeah.
Cucumbers on my.
We're going to Miracle. I got to thank you, Car from Alexis, thanking us for donating to the teacher raffle that they did for Teacher Appreciation Week. So that's here if anyone wants to read it. Other than that, I don't have anything right now. Just those 2 things. So anybody got anything else?
Yeah,
What do you
actually,
got?
I just want to, since this is our last board meeting of technically the school year, I want to acknowledge one last time, even though she could not be here, the retirement of Sandra Gardner. She was wonderful, not a personal level, as a student with a 504 plan. She was essential in my success here. So I want to congratulate her and wish her all the best.
Thank you.
We, and us as well, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have an executive?
No.
Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting. Margaret and Molly.
This doesn't go on record.
Matt.
Short.
About 30,000.
Don't take the credit for that.